Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and this is Telly's Masterpiece MK1. I just finished building this guy probably about a week back. I've been waiting to do this video until I had just touched up a couple little things, and I just finished off. So it is a little bit of a departure from what I usually do as far as MK1 Masterpiece level build. Because I used a different crystal reveal parts, and I will get into that and show you guys in a bit, but let's just run through it right quick. It's got the Shtok Custom Works chassis, electronics chassis up here to house all the electronics, which has the standard power switch, USB, recharge port, and SD access. It's got the standard pop-off covers. I went with a white Profi board just to be different this time because well, I haven't used them before and I like the look of them. This is being funny. Why aren't you clicking in? There we go. No, still not. Oh, wrong side, duh. Also, oh yeah, before I put those on, I also added, as you can see right there, a PhysiCom Bluetooth module and a separate Bluetooth kill switch here. Which is good because you don't want to have Bluetooth running all the time just when you're using it. So if you have it running all the time, it's burning up your battery for no good reason, just trying to pair, looking for a signal, etc. Got a Sanyo 3500 milliamp hour 15 amp? A 10 or 15 amp battery. 18650, largest capacity with a good current rating that you can find for an 18650. Then a JBL 28mm premium speaker in there. A bit of chassis mounted geometric mesh to just as an accent, but that part's going to be visible through this cutout here in the Graflex clamp. And a couple of additional flathead screws here with the point of adding extra stability and strength to the chassis, as well as locking the electronics chassis in and giving you some more detail because those screws will show up and be visible through these two windows. So just kind of a double purpose on that one. The brass mesh here is hexagon mesh. It's just under 1mm, mounted with little tiny brass screws here and here to the Rudy Pando chassis. And then modifications, I did do a sound cutout here. As you can see, that's just, you use a flex shaft tool or some files, whatever you want to use, to just kind of mill out this section here so that the sound can vent out much better that way. And then I did tap and thread here all the way through into the under part, and then added another one on the other side so that there are 4 screws holding this section onto this section, and they actually thread into the under section, whereas when you buy this crystal chamber chassis, nothing threads into anything. It's just one small hex screw that you screw in here and puts pressure on this part of the chassis to hold these two parts together. And while it does work, it's definitely prone to wear out, and it's definitely something that's going to be a weak point. So I don't see the point of having just a little bit of pressure holding something like this together, where you can easily add 3 more screws and drill and tap and thread all of them so that they all screw in and attach everything together, so it's nice and sturdy. We come up here, we've got a pogo pin Shtok NeoPixel connector minus NeoPixels mounted in a 3D printed housing right here to mate with the underside of this fellow. So when everything is assembled, this guy connects up like this to send the signal through to the emitter. And then we have the crystal chamber itself. Let's go ahead and fire it up so you guys can see it. Did dual 1/4 inch by 5/8 of an inch quartz crystal points with neopixels illuminating from both sides, and a custom designed section of kind of power sourcing going on here. The idea with this one was to do something different, just to try something different. And I got the idea from the Metal Master that I just recently finished up. The parts that I usually use are the Shtok Custom Works crystal holders in here, but they don't really allow for tying those parts into the remainder of this Rudy Pando chassis. And they look really nice, don't get me wrong, they're really good looking, but they're not something that you can really kind of tie into and attach them into what else you've got going on here. They're just meant to look good and kind of be standalone. What I wanted to do was tie the internal parts of this crystal chamber setup, physically tie them into everything else that's going on here. So I took some of the MB Sabers crystal holders from the Metal Master and tapped and threaded them, and then got some, I think it was 3/8 inch brass threaded pipe, and screwed them on to this crystal holder and onto the aluminum cylinder parts that come with the Rudy Pando chamber, so that all those parts can just screw together and be solid, which is great. Very simple too, because the threading on the inside of the Rudy Pando parts is 3/8 already. So if you tap and thread the Metal Master parts to the same size, then you can just connect them with a little bit of brass pipe as an adapter, screw them together, and you're done. And then I tied them into the remainder on the outside of the Rudy Pando chassis by some stainless steel conduit tubing here, and added some additional brass greebles and pipes and whatnot, with the idea of having kind of, you know, a recirculating and kind of, you know, a system, a recirculating system is what I'm going for here. I'm not really finding my words all that well tonight, but you get the idea. So we've got all sorts of different tubes and pipes that are actually pumping into the crystals now, rather than just going from one part of the chassis to another, which is awesome and everything, but it's not, you know, I always feel like it's kind of a missed opportunity. If the crystals are really what's powering the lightsaber and the blade and everything else, then shouldn't the power be actually being tapped out of the crystals? So you want to actually get some attachment going on there. So all of these Metal Master parts here have 8 different, is it 8 or is it 6? Yeah, they all have 6 arms that, you know, extend out around and hold the crystal, and then you can put little tiny, like 1mm or 1.2mm threaded rods through them, screw them in to actually hold the quartz crystals in place, and then you can add additional detail elements over those, kind of cover them up. But both of these crystals are actually anchored in place by little tiny brass rods that come out of each of these little arms, and then stainless steel conduit tubing that connects up the crystals into the remainder of the chassis, and then kind of recirculates and sends power throughout the system. You know, however you want to envision or theorize the system works. That's up to you guys, but it's kind of more fun to actually have a way to tap the crystal chamber chassis directly into the crystal itself, and not just have crystals hanging out, not really attached to anything, not really doing anything, but looking good. These guys are actually, you know, at the party and drinking the beer now. These guys are really, you know, bringing something to the table now, I think, which is cool. Something I wanted to try out, and I think it came out well. You know, it was totally experimental. It might have looked terrible. It might not have fit. It might have just failed, but it worked out. And Telly, I hope you like it. If you don't, that's fine. I have another guy who is happy to buy this MK1, and I can build another one for you in the standard style. But if you do like this one, then it's all yours. Then we have some aluminum over the brass tubing here, kind of acting as a heat sink or a radiator, just as an extra design element, just because I've seen it in other really classy lightsaber builds before, and I just wanted to kind of give it a shot and throw it in there and see how it looked. But it's nice to have another little bit of color contrast with the silver and the brass in this pipe. This is where all your actual power, your wires are actually all running here, from one end to the other. And then I did a patina in all the inset sections here. Anything that's got a, you know, a bit of depth to it, you want to add some color to it to make that depth pop and give it a little bit more detail, a little bit more, you know, of a look. And Telly wanted this MK1 to be kind of vintage and weathered looking, so I did kind of want to grunge the chassis up a little bit, just so that it wasn't totally out of character with the rest of the build. But let's slap it together for you guys real quick so you can see how everything goes together. Start by putting the Graflex clamp on. And you just want to line these screws up with these holes, so slide it on so that that's where they're going to be. And then once you're there, you're good. And we're good because you can see that brass hexagonal mesh sheet right through there, and you can see the screws, which means that we can now put these transistors on, and they just screw right in. He says this can actually be a little bit challenging at times because it's hard to catch the threads just right. That one went in nicely. And these you actually do want to trim a tiny bit. I always take about maybe two threads off the tip of both of these guys, which is less than 1/8 of an inch. It's probably about 1.5/16 of an inch off of both of them because they're both too long as they come from Roman props. They're both too long, and the top one here will probably screw all the way in, but the bottom one is definitely not going to screw all the way in unless you take a little bit of length off of it. Now those guys are both set, and that means that everything inside here is nicely anchored, because these guys actually also act as anchors. I'm going to put the switch assembly in and just kind of press fit that. The header pins will connect. We're going to slide the bubble strip on. Which can sometimes be a little challenging because this section, to get it to work just right, to get the buttons to work so that they have really good action and so that they are reliable functioning buttons, you have to get everything to the exact right height, and you have to sand this whole strip down so that it's exactly the right thickness. Then you have to backfill the backside of these bubbles here. You have to fill those in so that the backside is actually flat. But if you do it right, there we go. So So you can hear really good tactile response, really good action on the buttons, and that's what you want to shoot for. Up top we've got a custom made, very simple aluminum slug style blade plug. Go ahead and turn everything on. I'm going to make sure the Bluetooth is turned on. So we get a nice shine through with that blade plug. And it uses a T5 retention. There we go. You just have to get it started. If you guys run into a situation like with something like this, the best thing you can do is, if you can't get it started, don't try prying at it, but take the screw out and stick something long and pointy through the screw hole and just kind of wiggle it around enough that it moves, and then once it moves, it frees itself up nice and easily. So, simple blade plug, just a diffused piece of 1-inch blade tube, nice, super strong epoxy holding everything together on the backside. Non-conductive epoxy, so that if it were to contact any of these pins, it's not going to be an issue. NeoPixel blade connector with onboard pixels, custom plexiglass diffused screen, really shorty pogo pins, which is good because you don't have a lot of room to work with this emitter, so you want to get those pins as short as you can so that the blade goes as deep as it can. Twist release crystal chamber. Nicely illuminated crystals. I actually had to go through a few different sets of crystals until I got some that illuminated this well. I don't know why. They're always a little bit of a challenge. It's always a little different. But with this build, the first like 3 sets that I tried just looked awful. They weren't illuminating at all. These guys really are. They really catch the light nicely. But that green is pretty intense. Actually, why not use the Bluetooth? So I'm going to go to the Force Sync app here. Select Profi board. Tell it I want remote control, and we are now totally remotely controlling, which is very cool. And from here you can play the audio track, stop the audio track obviously, and you can do all the effects. You can do a blade lockup, blade drag, blaster block, a clash, power on and off, jump to the next preset. And you can adjust the volume, which is great. Trying to get it to right around halfway, but that's almost halfway. So it's still pretty loud. But if we turn it back up to 2600, 2500 or something like that, that's not quite all the way. 3000 is maximum, but like 2550, nice and loud. But if you close it up, it's even louder. And that's just for obvious reasons. The speaker is, you know, kind of inside the hilt, and if the hilt's closed, then it's acting as a resonant chamber. Lots of good audio tracks on this guy. There's a few more than that, but just so you guys can get a little mix of what's on there for audio tracks. I never think to actually do that when I'm doing a video. Now, let's... Oh, there it is. I'll lose that set screw. Go ahead and put the blade in right quick, just so Telly can see what the blade array looks like. The blue color cycle blade. Blue fire blade. Bright blue blade for Obi-Wan. And good force quotes on all these blades and all my sound fonts. Rather than using force sounds, I put quotes for force sounds, so you can have quotes on demand. Rather than having quotes in between every sound font every time you toggle the button, because that just burns them out and you get sick of hearing them.
You'll find out overconfidence is your weakness. Your overconfidence is your weakness.
Thanks, Luke. This is a cool white blade.
Jungle wastes are not to be traveled lightly. you're looking for.
That's a hidden bonus track right there. That is an Ewok for those of you guys who don't know. Chewbacca, for everyone who does know. That's definitely one of the best all-time Ewok quotes from Return of the Jedi. Blue turbine blade.
Tasty burger.
I don't know if that's from any of the Star Wars movies, but I'm pretty sure it's Mace Windu.
This party's over. This party's over.
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane!
Yeah, I don't think that's a Star Wars quote either, but it's definitely still Mace Windu.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters. What a piece of junk. What a piece of junk. But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
It's just got all the whiny Luke quotes on it. There's definitely more.
With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
I love how whiny he could be.
Now you will experience the full power of the dark side.
I see you have constructed a new lightsaber.
Ah, yeah, thanks Darth. I built it for Telly. I hope he likes it.
Only your hatred can destroy me.
That's about it for the blades. I think we've gone through all of them. Showed you guys some of the Force quotes. One thing I haven't done is showed you the color wheel. There we go. You just have to press and hold the power and then hit aux. And then if you rotate the lightsaber around like so, it will run through all the different colors. And you can go back and forth until you get just the right one, and then you can lock it in. So that way, even if all 12 or 13 of those blade presets don't work for you, you could on the fly customize any of them to a different color you want, and it will change the effects with them proportionally, so everything still looks good. And that's pretty cool. Alright guys, thank you as always for watching. Telly, let me know what you think. I am just waiting on some parts to come in the mail before I can start your mace, but that will be soon. And thank you guys, as always.